All right, remove myself from here and you go ahead and you're good to go.
Cool. Cheers, William. Excuse me. Cool. Hey guys, I thought what I would go over today is some of the more SOP stuff. I think what I found to be most valuable to people is when you actually look on the inside and see what the other person is doing on the back end, because it's all well and good to talk about all this stuff that we do. But yeah, it's another thing when you actually get to visually see it. And then I think you can contextualize it a bit better and have a feeling for how you might want to implement if you do choose to implement. And yeah, I guess I'll start by saying, you know, I feel like a big part to scaling your team and adding in VAs or virtual professionals and adding in new team members wherever they are, whether they're local, whether they're remote, an important piece to, I guess, increase the success rate of a seamless onboarding experience and increasing or multiplying productivity instead of multiplying problems. A key piece is to actually have an organized back-end system. So the back end of your business. If you could imagine, if you've got folders here, there, and everywhere, and nothing has a home, nothing's categorized, there's no folder system. You can imagine as soon as you start hiring people and getting people on board, it can turn into a little bit of a shit show, so to speak. So you want to set yourself up for success when you're having someone on board. And so I'd say probably the first piece to that is actually organizing the internal pieces of your business. This is something I actually go over in the delegation cheat sheet that I have. So I'm not sure if any of you guys grabbed that, but there's 6 pillars that I name in there. So it's a system, whereas you can organize your internal enterprise based, on 6 pillars, which obviously is a lot of help when you are adding on new people into your team. So I'm not sure if you guys downloaded that last time. I'm just going to pop it in the comments again in case anyone does want to download that now. And then I'll go ahead and give you guys a bit of a sneak peek into my back end here. So share screen, desktop. Okay. So first and foremost, I found when I'm working with my team of VAs, the most important thing to start off with is making sure you have a shared drive. So the shared drive, it's different to having it just in my drive. In my drive, you are the owner of all of those folders and files that go in there. And in the shared drive, anything you pop in there belongs to that drive. Okay, so I've got a couple of different ones. I've got the actual operations, and then I've also got some training and development, which, thinking about it now, it could probably go into teams, so we don't have a whole another folder, but we do have quite a lot of stuff, which is why we've created another workspace for it. So I believe this comes, like, if you pay for like the upgrade in Gmail and have it connected to your website or whatever, cost me like $11-12 or something a month for that email address. And I also get unlimited storage in this folder here. So yeah, as you guys can see, pretty straightforward. So from 1 to 6, essentially everything within your business, you can fit into these 6 pillars. Okay. I haven't put mindset in here. You guys know mindset's probably the biggest piece to all of this business building, scaling shenanigans. But that's another ball game. The operations, I'm only naming these 1 to 6. Okay. And so gets you really thinking about, you know, if you're a solopreneur still, or if you're just like in the early startup and you don't have anyone on your business in your team yet, you know, you're every single one of these. So you're fulfilling all of these departments within your business. So I look at these different departments that I have here, and I can tell you that I have somebody supporting me in each and every single one of these, or most of these anyway. I have someone supporting me here. Like finance is my accountant, bookkeeper, and then my local accountant as well. In operations, I've got my HR and recruitment and operations manager. In delivery and products, and my delivery is the actual VAs themselves. You know, the sales, I have someone on my sales team who's helping me take calls. And then the marketing and lead gen, I've got, you know, video editor, social media manager, copywriter. So you start to really grasp, you know, the different functions within your business and who goes where. Because I think a lot of the time people, you know, they think they want to grab a VA, and there's a difference between generalists and specialists. And so your generalists, you know, they might be a jack of all trades and do some of your admin-y type work, some ad hoc stuff, but they're not really going to be a specialist in everything. And you might start off with more of a generalist virtual assistant that you train up. But you also need to, like, I think as you grow, you're going to realize that the generalist doesn't quite cut the skill set that you need for certain specialist positions. Okay, so as you grow and evolve, and as your enterprise evolves as well, that's where you really get to start thinking, okay, you know, what are the specialist roles that I need within my business, and what needs to be delegated. So getting back to the organization piece, if you go into I mean, you guys, I don't know if you geek out about this stuff. I love this. I love how organized my back end is, because it just makes work and working online and working with other people so much easier. So you can see with me, everything's got a place. Yeah. If I have an issue with my copywriter, or if my copywriter is going for 2 weeks holidays and I need someone to fulfill that position, I can say, okay, cool. Check out this folder on the branding and positioning. Okay, it's got our logo. It's got a questionnaire in there, which is everything about my business. It's got an avatar workbook. It's pretty much got everything that they need to successfully write copy for my business. So, like, how easy is that, right? I don't have to go scrambling for hours trying to find all these loose documents that are here, there, and everywhere. Everything's got a home. So I'd recommend. And you know, you don't have to go hammer and tong into this and spend weeks putting all of this together. You can start somewhere and then like evolve it as time goes by. Okay, so it's a progressive evolution, this folder creation and putting homes, you know, to things as well. So is that making sense, guys, with the folders? I'm curious if you guys are doing that yourselves, or if this is new to you. Can you just let me know in the comments? And also, if you could please just throw out any questions at all that you have about SOPs, anything specific that you would like me to cover, because I'm going to be covering that today. Bambi, yes, I'm a nut for organization. Awesome. Yeah. So you're one step ahead of a lot of people, Bambi, because I don't see this very, very often where people have this type of organization, but it certainly does help. Sales, yeah. So you guys can, you know, kind of get the picture here of what it looks like. Okay, and look, it's not perfect, but it works. Okay. And I guess when you're working with the team as well, it's good to actually even explain the system to them. So when I first started doing, like, putting all these folders in place, I'm the only one that knows where all the folders go and where everything belongs, right? So the first thing I did, once I had the basic structure of my 6 pillars and the folders within that, I actually went through and created a screencast for my main team members and explained what goes where and what the system is, so that obviously it's going to help them when they're, I'm asking them to do things, or if they're just doing their deliverables, they're going to know where everything needs to be organized. And I'm really clear about that as well. Even now, if I delegate something, I always say, make sure you organize it properly in the Google Drive. So yeah, that's the back end piece, guys. And so you'll see this trend of these 6 pillars throughout my SOPs and all the other aspects. It's kind of trickled throughout my business. So for example, if we come over to Asana, where I have our SOP index, right? So this is essentially where we're keeping most of our commonly used SOPs in here. Okay. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. One way is you have this SOP index here, and you could probably remove all of these ones here. Or if you prefer to have them on the side here, then you would write each and every single one out individually. All right. So I've got both at the moment. I just haven't decided really which one I want to go with. I'll probably go with this SOP index. But as you can see, again, you can see the 6 pillars trickled through here: operations, delivery, finance, marketing, team. And so if you, like, this is quite a common one. So we have a team of SEO link builders that, basically that we do some part management for with our clients. So we're making sure we're strategizing with our clients and making sure that, they've got continuous backlinks being dripped to their websites because they're in the long-term SEO game. And we all know how valuable backlinks are. And we also know how time consuming it is. So it's one of those things that a lot of people tend to delegate first. I know it certainly was one of the first things I delegated when I was starting off in digital marketing. And so this is generally, how it would look as an example, right? So we just have our heading here. You can also put tags in here as well. Operations, SOP index. It helps you just find things a little bit easier. And then we have our subtasks. So this is after landing a client. This is after they've signed up, what we're doing. And this is after they've been using our services. Okay, this is the general process of what we're doing. And you want to use this SOP part here as, like, you don't want to go, I guess, too in depth here, because it's kind of a checklist, right? It's a checklist for your team where they can come in day to day and check things off. And to be honest, I don't actually use a lot of my SOPs with my team anymore. Everyone does things differently. What I do is, if I have a new process in place, or if I have a new hire coming in, then generally I advise them to use the SOP for a couple of weeks or a month, for as long as it takes them to get into the rhythm of things. Okay. But once you've been working with someone for months and months and months, we generally don't use the SOP because it's become second nature at that stage. Now that's just my personal preference and what I've individually decided to do within my business. I just find I don't like to follow up team members on the execution. It might be a little bit different for you guys in the digital marketing space because ideally you have a project manager overseeing this type of stuff, right? So if you've got a project manager within your team, you can actually get them to manage the project and see the execution through, and they oversee the team members and make sure that they're ticking the boxes, yeah? Because you might have specific tasks and a very specific way of doing things. And in that case, then I would probably recommend to use the SOPs either daily or weekly, whatever you've set them to. Okay. So yeah, again, it comes down to personal preference. I personally just don't like to follow up with everyone, and checklist just hasn't really worked well with my team structure and what we have going on. But these SOPs certainly have come in handy for newbies, and also when we're starting off a new process as well. Okay. So what I like to do with these SOPs as well. So you guys, Asana's a great tool to use. Asana and Trello is another popular project management tool. People have different preferences. They have very similar functions. I would probably personally prefer Asana just for because of the layout and some of the extra features that you have available. But I have also used Trello for this type of stuff as well. Okay, so this is how it looks within Asana. Now, once you've got your SOP here, I would actually, because you're kind of just being brief on these checklist points, yeah, I would actually recommend to have a more in-depth Google document attached in here. So in this part here in the description, you would say something like, check out this SOP, we could say in-depth SOP guideline for more direction, okay? Because this is quite brief, right? But for someone that's starting off, and if you want to, eliminate some of the errors, or I guess give the best chance at getting whatever the process is, getting it right the first time, with trying to limit the amount of error. Then you'd want to put in like an SOP guideline as well. And how that looks like is this, for example. Okay, so this is something that I was using for my team in regards to lead generation. And the reason we put it into an SOP is because we were also training other VAs to be able to do this as well. Okay, and we wanted to make sure that they fully understood. And so you can put as much or as little as you want in here. I like to have a date on there as well, because everything's, you guys know, in the digital world, things evolve and they change very quickly. And so it's good to actually just go through and look at these, every 6 months, every 12 months or so. If you are using them regularly, you want to have them updated as well. It's pretty straightforward. Scope, you're putting in, what is the SOP to be used and where is it not applicable, right? And who's the SEO, who's the SOP for and aimed at. Okay, so for this is about list buildings, connections, right? So from the Facebook group, and another one like on our post, and another one that's not on our post. So the purpose, what we're trying to do here is convert our ICAs into paying clients, and a couple of other objectives as well. Yeah. So I feel like this is an important piece to include in your SOP, because you can give someone to do, but if you're not clear on what the end goal is, they might do it completely wrong. And it happens time and time again. So when you are working with remote workers, virtual professionals, it's really, really important that you convey across to them what the actual end goal is, what the objective is of the thing, whatever that is that you're delegating and getting them to do. Okay. Otherwise, you might find they go out and they do this thing for God knows how long, and when you actually check it, you're like, holy smokes, this wasn't what I asked at all, right? But by painting that end picture, it gives them a much better idea of what's actually expected of them. Some of the basic tools or softwares used for this particular SOP. So, and then we've put other lead generation tools as well. And then there's literally, we're just enumerating basically every single step of that process, and made it very clear with screenshots as well. So how to find your ICAs, how to make a connection on Facebook. And you want to kind of format it in a way that is easy to read as well, because I guess there is quite a lot in here. So you don't want to put anything that's not necessary. I always think short, sharp, and shiny is the way to go. And then we have who's responsible for it at the end. Okay, what's the co-worker doing and what's the client responsible for? Which would be yourself. So what are you responsible for? What's this person responsible for? So you're being really, really clear with who's responsible for what. And that's something you should always clarify when working within a team. clarify the roles and who's responsible for what. Otherwise, you can find yourself going around in circles and chasing your tail a lot. So whenever I delegate anything to my team, or if we're starting a new campaign or a project, I always make sure that it's super clear on who's doing what and who's responsible. Okay. I just had a chat with my team the other day because I found myself following up much more than what I would want to follow up. And sometimes you need to just have some stern words as well. I said, look, guys, I'm over the follow up. I said, let's just be really clear on who's doing what. And I said, Kay, you are responsible for doing this, this, and this. I said, I want you to follow up on the other people that are involved on that campaign. If you're having trouble reaching them, then you can reach out to me. But I'm essentially handing over responsibility to say, this is your responsibility. And then that way, if it doesn't get done, she's the one that's accountable for it. Because I've pre-framed what's expected, and that she is responsible for it. And if anything happens in between, then she's to contact me. So if she doesn't contact me in between when something's happened, then, you know, that's on her. Okay. So you do need to have these conversations sometimes as well. Is that making sense for everyone? Any questions on this SOP guideline? The beautiful thing with this as well is you don't actually have to do this yourself. This is something that you could actually delegate to someone in your team to do. Or if it's your first hire, you can hire a VA and test them in certain things to actually make sure they have attention to detail, and get them to write these processes out for you. Okay, so it ends up saving you hours and hours of time. And so, yes, I am a bit of a geek when it comes to this stuff. And I did create an SOP for SOP creation. That's a bit of a mouthful. But, you know, I figure after working with teams for so long, you can never be too clear with your communication. Okay. Now, this is in Trello. So look, I could have done it in Asana, but I just did it in Trello all this time ago, and I've just tweaked it in there ever since. And so there's no particular reason I'm using it in Trello, if you're wondering. But I guess it's good for you guys to actually see this interface as well, if you're not familiar. So when creating the SOPs, the way in which you can do this with your VA is in 3 sort of clear, succinct steps. And so the first step would be for you to create a screencast, all right? Enumerating and explaining every step of whatever that process is. The second part to this is your VA turns the recorded SOP into the SOP guideline, right? So they would watch the screencast, and then they would go through here, and they would add in all the bits and pieces that you want them to fill in here. Okay. The third part to that is you look at it and give approval, or you give some feedback to fix a few things. Okay. And then once they've got the approval, that's when you can get them to either add it into in Asana or Trello. Okay, so that's where you'd come into your SOP index. So essentially all you're doing is creating the screencast and then approving the SOP guideline. So you come and look at the SOP guideline and you're like, yeah, that looks pretty good for me. And then once you've approved that, they would come in here, you know, what's this one? This is lead generation strategy. So that would be under marketing. So we would go add task, lead generation strategy, and they would go through and they would basically put the steps in there from the guideline. Okay, and this is all laid out to them as well in this SOP of how to actually put that checklist together. Okay, so you can see I've got steps here on how to do that. So very, very clear steps on creating the guideline, because if you think about it, if you just give them a Word document with nothing on it and say, create an SOP guideline for me, chances are you're going to get dog's breakfast back. It's not going to be anything that you expected. Look, you might be pleasantly surprised and think, oh shit, this person like really delivered. But I would probably say that if they don't have clear instruction and, if they're not really familiar with the SOP creation process and have done it in the past, then you're going to get something back which isn't going to make you very happy. And you're going to think, well, why didn't they do what I asked them? And the problem isn't them if that's happened. The problem has been you, because the communication hasn't been clear enough on what you've asked them to do. Hence why I make sure that I try to include everything that I can. So I'm not diving deep into every single little detail, because you don't want to overwhelm, but you do want to include in there what's important. Okay. Like SOP guideline, I've said, listen carefully to the recorded SOP screencast and document the process step by step in an organized and digestible format. Okay, so that's pretty clear what I'm asking. And that's well and good, but there's more to this, right? So it's include screenshots of the steps in the process, use red arrows, text, and red borders to make it visually easy to understand. When writing the steps, use bold text for action items. Yeah, that's just something I personally like. I like to see the bold, like the action steps in bolded text. Yeah, because it really sticks out. And whoever's trying to learn that process, it makes it a lot easier for them to actually digest and read through as well. Okay. Use italics when referring to a document or a sheet or a link or another resource. Okay. Again, it's just, formatting and making things stand out. Make headings, subheadings, and the body of the guideline text organized and easy to follow, okay, as shown in the SOP guideline template. So they would come here and say, okay, cool, this is pretty much already formatted. All they're going to do is come in here and change the bullet points and all the other bits and pieces, yeah? This is just a little thing that I like to put at the end as well, just some symbols. It makes it a little bit more visually appealing. And then at the end of the SOP, I actually get them to create a sample checklist at the end of it. Yeah. And that's what I would review before they go ahead and put it in Trello or Asana. Yeah. Because if I look at the SOP guideline without that checklist, and then I say, okay, now make it into a checklist, they might put a checklist together that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. And so I want to be able to review that as well before they go ahead and create that official SOP. Yeah. So you're kind of drafting, you're in the drafting stage here of this SOP guideline. Yeah. And so step 3 here, so this is really for the VA. So transcribe the SOP guideline over to Trello or Asana to create a systematic, easy to follow process. I said in the description, include the scope and purpose. Yeah, so the scope and purpose is already in here. So all they're going to do is copy paste that. Include the SOP guideline link. Yes, and then add links to the relevant docs, PDFs, URLs to further support the steps. So you can see that I've done that here in this SOP. So I've actually, like on this number 2, I've included that link there. I've included this there. Okay. So I've actually included a video as well in this step 2 on an example of how to create a step in the SOP guideline for them. Okay, so it's really, it's almost foolproof when you put this together. I guess the next step is actually finding someone who has attention to detail and can follow instructions. Yeah, which is what we covered last week when I went through the actual recruitments and deep dived into that with you guys. So that's the main part here of the SOP creation. Can you guys let me know if this has been valuable, actually looking at this SOP creation process? I know a few people do things a little bit differently in terms of SOP creation. So I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are actually looking at this, or if you had something similar as well. Just let me know in the comments, or feel free to unmute yourselves as well. All right. Cool. Patrick says very valuable to see how you do SOPs. Yeah, and look, some people might look at my SOP process and say, well, I think that's a bit too much. But in saying that, like I said, I like to eliminate errors. I'm about optimizing energy within business. I optimize energy within my body and within my life, and I also optimize energy within my business as well. And so I like to put together thorough SOPs with only what's needed in there, to make sure that, basically we're eliminating errors and shit's getting done how you expect it to get done. Because as you start to hire more people, what you're going to find is you're going to have more problems within the business coming up, which is natural. It's part of the process. And I think this really comes down to a mindset piece of we just need to change our relationship with problems, because they're inevitable and they will come up. And once upon a time a problem would come up and I'd be like, oh shit, here we go again, right? Here we go again with this problem. But instead of thinking of it that way, after doing a lot of work, working with a lot of high-end mentors and coaches as well, I'm kind of in a place where when a problem comes up, I put my hands together and I say, okay, cool, where's the lesson in this? Or where's the opportunity in this? Because there's always something. You're having problems with your clients, celebrate that. Like, this is a great opportunity to be able to up level and figure out how you can do better next time, right? So it's going to be the same thing when you're hiring new team members, right? So this is why I like to have the organization that I do, is because I'm setting them up for success in a way, right? I'm not just throwing them in the deep end, like, here you go guys, good luck, be in touch, like I've actually got somewhere to send them, somewhere for them to study what it is that I'm about, my company's about, our vision, our mission, our processes, and then from there, we can have a really harmonious collaboration. It's, and this is part of the rapport building as well. I've mentioned in the previous trainings that I've done here with you guys that one of the most important pieces to having success with, like, if you want to have success with VAs and scaling your business with VAs, you need to put in effort to see them as humans and make rapport with them, right? It's the same as your clients. If you're, one of the most important things with client acquisition is, the relationship building piece. If you've got clients that you don't have much of a rapport or relationship with, you're not important to them. And so therefore you're easy enough for them to give the flick. Yeah. But if you've got a relationship with them, they see you and they hear you on another level. And it's the same with your staff. Right, it's the same with virtual professionals. If you understand them and if you go out of your way to just be human with them, like I'm so myself when I'm with my team. I'm nothing fancy. I'm so attuned, like equality is something that's really like a core value of mine, and so that, I guess, trickles throughout my company as well. So I feel like that's quite a big piece to building your company. You find as your company or your enterprise grows as well, one of the things that's going to become more apparent is company culture, right? When you get to 5 people, 10 people, your problems start to change. Yeah. Your problems aren't lead generation anymore in marketing, because you've got a team, you've got your lead gen and marketing inflow. Your problems evolve and change the more you grow, right? So as you get bigger and bigger, you'll find that company culture is going to be something that you need to give more time, energy, love, and attention to. But if you can start doing that from the beginning, then you're really setting you and your team up for success. So that's pretty much all I had to speak about today, guys. I just wanted to run you through those SOPs and what my back end looks like. So if let me know if you've got any questions. Just jump on in the chat. Or feel free to unmute yourself. I'll wait for a few seconds to see if anyone wants to ask anything, and I'm happy to answer those questions. Patrick, important question for us. In Williams classes, we learn an incredible amount of information. How would you turn this into a usable SOP? We get the video, which has a ton of info, sometimes in a format and often stream of consciousness. Hard to implement. Curious how you would approach this. How would you turn this info into a usable SOP? Okay, is that what you're asking? Yes, I can share the SOP guideline for you. That's not a problem. You don't have to, yeah. Short and sharp, Patrick. I'm happy to share the SOP guideline with you. Like I've said in the past, I'm not scarce when it comes to sharing some of my back end stuff. If I know it's going to help you guys, then I'm more than happy to do that. I know there is abundance there. Before I forget that, let me go ahead. I mean, I'll give it to William to chuck in to your group, because I know that you guys have a community somewhere where he uploads these to. But I will also put it in the chat here for those of you who are wanting to take action quick. All right. So you guys can go ahead and grab that if you like. That's the SOP guideline. Okay. If you guys would like I don't know if any of you have Trello. If you would like to have access to this as well, just get in touch with William, give him your email address, and I'll grab that off of him, and then I can add you to that board as well so that you can access that. I know that's a lot in there, and there's no way in hell, like I spent probably a good couple of weeks really putting together that SOP for SOPs, yeah, and that was just through trial and error, changing things around and optimizing it, which you guys know I'm all about. So if you would like access, yeah, to that Trello SOP, I'm also more than happy to share that with you. Okay, so you'll have the guideline, and you'll also have the Trello SOP, which is a pretty good start for you guys. You should be able to implement SOPs pretty quickly with that. All right. Then you just got to figure out whether you want them in Asana or whether you want to create your SOP index in Trello. That's entirely up to you. Just give your email address to, oh, do you know what? I'll just give you my email address. Becca@thespeedupco.com. Just send me a message and say, hey, can I grab the SOP template in Trello? Okay, that will remind me what it's about, and then I'll make sure to add you to that board. Okay. And yeah, you're welcome, Patrick. On that note, I will wrap things up here, guys. I know it's a little bit earlier than the full hour, but I think well, I've gotten everything out, and you guys don't have any more questions. So yeah, we can wrap it up for the day. So thanks again, guys. Yeah, if you do want any of that information, you haven't grabbed it yet, just email me, becca@thespeedupco.com. And I'll be more than happy to share some of my stuff with you. And I'll give the links to William so that he can add it to your back ends as well. Okay. Thanks, guys, and have a good one. Bye.